Terminator Genisys. Now, before I got into this film, honestly, I wasn't even that excited to see it. Like, when it was first announced, I was like, it's a cool concept. I do love the Terminator franchise. I was fortunate enough to get like these two little nerdy Terminator items from Loot Crate, so that was actually kind of cool. I got the brain chip and a little um, soft, apparently half scale endoskeleton skull. So it's weird that this is half the size of a skull. But when it was first announced, it was like it's a cool concept. I think like most people, I didn't expect after Salvation. I didn't expect after two that there would be another Terminator film. And I love Terminator 2. I love the first two movies. The third one, I feel the same about, 3 and Salvation as pretty much everybody else. So going into this, I was like, that's a really cool concept. I wasn't excited at all until honestly last week. And like nothing changed. I didn't see like anything extra about it or anything like that. It was just randomly like, I thought about it and it was like, it's Terminator. I should be like super excited to see this because I love the franchise. And honestly, it's based on the first two films only. It could be on the second film, by itself. Because one summer I literally spent like almost every day. It was like just watch Terminator. Like that's all I did. So I ended up randomly getting excited for it. I went to see it last night, and I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed the movie. I thought visually, I thought it looked pretty good. I thought the story was actually pretty well done. Um, and this is something that's always been the case with Terminator. Like it's a good action movie, but there aren't too many action scenes, which I'm okay with because one of the big things about Terminator is the fact that it just has an interesting story to it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's still a good action movie, but there aren't like a billion action scenes in it, and the action scenes that we get admittedly are fairly similar to the ones we've had before, where the Terminators kind of grab each other and they do that, and they like slam each other into stuff because that's what Terminators do. So that's something that just still hasn't seemed to change. There's no real finesse with the Terminators. It's just like grab and slam and stuff. There's some slight differences in this one. Some pretty cool moments that we got, especially in the end fight scene. I thought it was pretty cool. They had some great CG effects, but I really enjoyed it. I was pleasantly surprised by it. A lot of cool nods to the original films with just a lot of the beginning was just a huge nod to both the first film, of course, because it's like a reboot of the franchise, sort of. It's like a reboot slash retelling of it in a sense. So it was like, of course, a huge nod to that. They kind of went through a lot of the exact same scenes of the first film, which I thought was really cool. Like some of the stuff with Kyle when he puts on the clothing, it's the same clothes as in the original Terminator and stuff like that. So I love that. I thought that's a great nod. They had some references to some of the things that the Terminator does or doesn't do that are clear references to the second film, and I won't say what those references are if you have enjoyed the films and you just haven't seen this one. Although, um, well, I guess it's a spoiler-free review, so you can't watch this before seeing the movie. But I thought it was cool, and I feel weird now because I see like other reviews, and a lot of other people kind of hate this movie. Like they don't think it looks good or the story was good or anything like that. So I kind of feel like the odd person out. Where I was like, I love the movie. I actually really enjoyed it. Like I don't think, of course, I don't think it was better than the second Terminator movie, but I thought it was a huge step up from like Terminator 3 and as well as Salvation, which I thought Salvation had a good story, and of course it was really awesome because it was like we finally get to see the future, and that was the big draw of that movie. And I enjoyed it for what it was. I did like that one more than 3. Um, but this one I just thought was really well done. I thought it was pretty cool. We got to see these characters, in a different ways. Sarah was actually a lot like John from Terminator 2, which was really cool. It was like she was, not the waitress that she was in the first film where she was running from the Terminator and she has to get all this, exposition and explanations for what's going to happen in the future. She knows everything. So it was really cool to see her position, set in the first Terminator, but she's acting like her own son in the second Terminator, where he was, sort of like the punk rock kid who's like, I don't give a crap about anything. That's kind of how she was in this movie, and I enjoyed that. She didn't, it wasn't like she didn't give a crap, but she just had that attitude, and it was actually really cool because we don't see Sarah that way. We see Sarah really tough, of course, in the second film, but we don't see Sarah tough like this, where it's like I already know everything. I know the future and this and that. So it was definitely a cool concept that I personally loved. I thought it looked really great. Um, there are a lot of great little twists in this as far as the Terminators throughout the film. Um, the second trailer, I guess if you guys saw it, then it did spoil some things for you. It didn't spoil it that much for me. Admittedly, it didn't spoil it as much as you might think it did. Um, I just went into it, I was like, all right, well, I know this one thing. It was kind of like it was revealed like in less than a minute anyway, so it was like, eh. Like I didn't feel like I lost that much of the film or anything like that, and I thought even with that trailer, I was thinking something totally different anyway. I was like, maybe they showed it this and it means this, and there's still some differences in there that are fairly surprising. So, even if you saw that sort of spoilerish second trailer, then there's still some things in there that need to get explained that aren't like completely thrown in from the trailer. At least I don't think they are. They may have been. I don't really remember. It's been a while since I watched it. Um, but I think there's still some things that the trailer doesn't exactly just flat out give away. So it's still some interesting story bits in there. Of course, um, one of the coolest things is just how they rewrite the history of the franchise. I thought was really well done, and I believe this was supposed to go into. This is supposed to be like a reboot as well as like a whole new franchise, but the way they ended it is really weird to me because it was like it didn't seem like it leads. I mean, it has the possibility, but I feel like the way they did it for sure was incredibly definitive. Like even with time travel, the way they ended this movie felt really definitive to me. So I feel like they'd have to write some pretty interesting stuff. But they did leave a certain plot line. Either they just forgot to write it in and they screwed up, or they intentionally did that to be like, well, here's this question, and there was never really an answer given because all the Judgment Day stuff that was going down. So they either left it open because they just didn't do it right, or they left it open on purpose because they really, really are banking on the fact that this gets a bunch of money. And I don't know if it hasn't. I haven't checked any figures or anything like that just yet, but I personally enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. I like the visuals. Some stuff did look the same, like the T1000, which is like the liquid one from T2. That one did look basically the same as it did before, and I don't know if that speaks to bad effects today or just the fact that that was really good effects back then and there was no need to change it because it did look different. It did look like they upgraded it, but it's a little hard to really change liquid metal. It's like it just reflects everything that's in the area and then it forms, and honestly I don't know how you can change it too much. But it was pretty cool. Like I definitely enjoyed it. The visuals on like young Arnold Schwarzenegger I thought were amazing. Like when they first show him off, like in the trailer you don't really get to see it too much, but when they actually first do like a full on close up, I thought it looked amazing. Maybe it was just me being weird, my eyes were playing tricks on me, but I thought it looked amazing. Like it looked like an actual person, and of course it wasn't actually young Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's not young, and obviously it wasn't the old footage because it was in HD. So it just looked really good. I thought it personally, at least, looked really well done. Moving CG Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't look so good. Not as great. It was that kind of took it back to the Salvation stuff because when they did it in Salvation, it was like, oh, like kind of looks like him, and it had this sort of Tron look to it where it was like it does, but it still looks CG. And this one it looked a lot better. At least when he was standing completely still. When they started to actually fight, and he was, it was CG Arnold, whether it was young or old, it just looked CG. So it was like, well, okay. But when they had like the first scene, maybe that's where they threw all the money in at. And it was just like, this is the first CG of young Arnold in this film. Let's make it look a million times better than Salvation, and they definitely did that. So I thought that looked cool. They had a lot of great twists in this movie. Like it went a totally different way than I thought it was gonna go, and I enjoyed that. Some people, like I mentioned, some of the reviews I watched, they kind of hated that it did that, but I actually enjoyed it because it was like, well, here's this twist. I didn't expect them to kind of do this, at all in the film. I didn't expect that to happen so early on. I didn't think that they would deal with this or be able to do that. So I actually liked a lot of the different twists that happened and how they messed with the timeline and how it was, altered, and how it, like I said, to me, seemed incredibly definitive. But if they're going into, another franchise for Terminator, I think it has a very interesting. It has an interesting path. Like the way they ended it, it could go an interesting way. But seemed real straightforward and definitive. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. I'm trying, of course, to keep it as vague as I can, but I really did enjoy it. I thought it was actually well done. Like I said, like the CG effects, especially on the new Terminator that they have. I thought it was well done. Um, Lots of twists and turns in there. Like the action, some of the big action moments were like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen, or like I said, didn't expect this to happen so early. I'm trying to keep it super vague because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But I enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. Honestly, I think it would be like for me it would be like T2, T1, and then this one, and then I guess Salvation, and then Terminator 3. And if I could somehow find and watch the Universal Terminator movie where they actually did go to the future, and it's the cast from Terminator 2, so it's like young John Connor, that would probably be my second favorite, but I don't know where that is. I don't know if I'd be able to find that on the internet or anything like that, but I like this movie. I would recommend it. If you've never seen Terminator, you might still enjoy it. There would be a lot of twists because I went to see it with like four other people, and my girlfriend didn't remember like anything from Terminator. So when like just through the dialogue, of course, they talk about like the other films and how certain things are gonna happen. Well, I guess technically did happen. They talk about Kyle Reese being John's father. So if you didn't know that, I'm sorry, that's a spoiler, but that's literally every film. I think they've mentioned that in some way. So she didn't remember that. I'm like, she thought that was in the trailer that was spoiled. I was like, that was in like that's in the first film. And she was like, I didn't remember that. I'm just like, okay. Like, there's just a lot of stuff, I guess. If you don't know anything about Terminator, or if you've never seen one, I think this would be a weird place to start. I think you should just start at the original films. I think it just makes this film even better. Not only the references, of course, them being, having the foundation of the original films and actually going back to the original film, or, obviously the time frame of the original film, which they do recreate exactly some of the scenes from the first movie, which I really love too. Like when the Terminator does first show up, it's still exactly the same because that's not affected. He showed up where he showed up in the first film, and there's some people that he ran into in the first film that he still runs into in this one. So I love the way that they did that. I haven't seen the first one in a long time. I don't know if they're in the exact same clothing, but they probably are. I think they may have done that. I'd love to. I'd have to check online to see that for sure. But I thought it was cool that they even bothered putting that stuff in there. But it was cool. Like they recreated some of the scenes from the first film. Um, Put the nods into like the second film. Like this happened or that happened or this didn't happen. So little references to the second movie. And we just got to see a lot of cool stuff. We got to see the future, which, we always get a glimpse of. And, of course, Salvation was all in the future. But they took it back, it's like the purple lasers and stuff going off, which I don't think they had in Salvation. I think it was all, like, regular, red lasers and stuff like that. I don't think they had, like, the purple lasers. I can't remember. But, we got to see, like, the purple lasers. That Terminators themselves, like, this doesn't, look creepy in, like, any way. It looks a little cross-eyed because the paint's off on the eyeballs. But I've never seen the Terminators actually look so creepy until this movie, and I love that. I thought it was really cool. They did a couple of different close-ups for the film where it was like they like either turn really slow, and of course they just look like this, so it's like a skeleton and it's just like teeth, and they're just like turning slowly or walking towards someone, and it's just a full-on endoskeleton, and it just looked really good. I was like, these have never looked creepy to me. But they do now. For some reason, they just look creepy in this movie. And I love that. I thought that was a great, just minor thing. I don't know if it was meant to be that way, because that's just how they look. But, just with the CG that they had and the close-ups, and it just looked really nice and, like actual metal and stuff. So I like that. I thought they looked really creepy, which was probably intentional, probably unintentional, I don't know. But either way, I enjoyed that. And like I said, I don't know if this is going to lead into a whole new franchise. I don't need it to. I don't really want it to because I feel like, especially with people already hating this one, even though I liked it a lot, I don't know how well the other ones would do, but they do have a pretty good setup for a new Terminator. I think it just has an interesting storyline. It could, they could have an interesting storyline. But I enjoyed the film. Like I said, I would recommend it. Despite it seems, I've only looked at like 2 or 3 different reviews, like 2 of them, I think. So not exactly a lot of different reviews, but so far it seems like people just don't like this film like at all. But I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. If you guys have seen it, of course, I want you to comment below. Let me know, what you thought about the film. Maybe some of your favorite parts or least favorite parts, without spoilers. I will be doing a spoiler video for this one, just to talk about all the weird random stuff that I did like and kind of explain why I liked it, considering it seems to be, hated quite a bit. So I kind of want to go into detail as to some of the things that actually did make me like this movie. But like I said, if you guys saw the movie, or if you didn't, what you thought about it after seeing it, or what you guys think about it, just based off of the trailers or knowing Terminator in general, and maybe thinking back on the last 2 films, what you guys kind of thought about this one. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.